I'm Blake Holden with the Cognitive Portfolio, and today I have with me Alex Londo, founder and CEO of JazzJune, an LMS with a turnkey suite of solutions addressing various training needs, no matter the size or type of company. Great to have you here, Alex.
Oh, thank you so much, Blake, for having me. This is great.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you to be here today. Before jumping into JazzJune, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Well, I started in video production many years ago, 15 years ago, actually. And I didn't realize at the time that I was helping people learn through video. And so as my career expanded over that 15 years, I met a guy who introduced me to something called instructional design. And that kind of kicked off my career in the learning and development world. And that led me to doing instructional design for multiple different large businesses, having my own consulting firm for instructional design. And then one day we decided to just start our own business and do instructional design for the whole world, basically.
Yeah, it's a pretty great background you have there, especially being able to find something fun to do with one of your colleagues. Why don't you tell me a
Yes.
little bit about life in Minnesota? I haven't spent much time up there, but is there a strong startup or edtech culture?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So obviously, people think of Minnesota as this frozen tundra, and it totally is. But there's a lot of opportunity here. I've been to a lot of large cities. I've worked across the United States, and I will say that the opportunity to talent ratio is great in Minneapolis. If you're looking for a good position with a strong company, Minneapolis could be a place for you. We have a lot of Fortune 500 businesses here. Target, Best Buy, General Mills, just to name a few of the huge companies that are based right here in my backyard. And so, with that in mind, it's given birth to a culture of learning and development. All of these businesses need to grow their employees. And so, one of the very first e learning firms, Allen Interactive, which goes way back to the 80s, started right here in Minneapolis. So we have a strong foundation here in Minneapolis of education. In general, our university is very well known, very well regarded. We have the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, which is an educational research facility. Minnesota prides itself on education. And so I will say that there is a lot of opportunity for EdTech here. There could be more, however. It's just beginning as the world has changed, I guess you could say.
Mhm. Actually, I didn't know that about Minnesota. It sounds like there's a strong background and culture, and I think that's something that could probably help you and your company. Moving
Yes.
on to Jazz June, could you tell me a little bit about what an LMS is and why one would need to use one or its multiple uses?
Yeah, absolutely. So LMS is just an acronym for Learning Management System. And a learning management system is basically what it sounds like. It's a platform, a digital platform that allows you to upload or download educational content, courses and articles and information. There are such a wide variety of learning management systems, and they can all work in different ways. I won't even dive into all those little differences and details. But on a big picture, a learning management system is typically how a company prescribes their learning and development and their training to their employees.
It kind of sounds like to me that it has some similarities to things that companies use, such as a CRM, for sales. Are there
Mhm.
any sort of connections to that philosophy?
Yeah, so it's an LMS is very similar to a CRM in the way that it functions and works. It's again a digital platform that tracks data and users and activity, and CRMs do something very similar to that. This is obviously in the lens of engaging your learner to actually get some value out of whatever they're interacting with so they can do their job better or understand the business better or professionally develop themselves and grow.
Mhm. And in what ways can an online learning platform like JazzJune work to replace some of the common learning institutions or common learning structures?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the big picture of this is Eric and I have been making and developing learning management systems for businesses for many years. Eric is my business partner, one of them. And in that time, we discovered that every business has their own learning management system. And really, what people need is a learning management system for themselves, a place that we as individual learners can keep track of all of our learning and have everything in one place. And so we kind of took the idea of, hey, learning management systems really benefit a business, and we see that. But what if we gave the learning management system to the people instead of the business? And they basically take their learning with them. So they don't have to take the course, take the same course twice just because they changed jobs or changed a position or something like that.
Mhm. Before speaking here today, we've talked previously, and in that conversation, you brought up this idea that JazzJune is trying to be similar to that of Expedia. Could you tell me more about this and the idea of utilizing reviews and things of that nature to
Yeah.
better enable the educators?
Yeah, absolutely. And sticking with that same kind of vein of learning management system, if you're an employee in a business, you go to your company's learning management system, and there you can search and find different courses that are available. Maybe they're courses that are created by that company. Maybe that company hires an outside agency to build different courses for HR requirements and things like that. Um, and what we thought was, that's available to you as an employee for your business, but that should just be available to every learner. In other words, I, as Alex Londo, the learner, not being an employee of a business, should be able to go to a learning management system and start searching and finding and sorting and filtering through all of the different learning options that are out there. And when I say all, I mean everything: webinars, online classes, instructor-led training, in classroom, even if you're looking for something like that. Basically, the same way Expedia populates flights and hotels so you can compare and contrast prices, and not just prices but value. What are you getting for the price? And you can really find the right fit for you for a vacation. Well, that same kind of logic applies here. We want to empower learners with tools that help them search, sort, and filter, ultimately find the best value education for them. That's where we feel like there's a big gap in the market. A lot of this stemmed from the idea that I lived through my teenage years, and I know what graduating high school, getting into college is like. And I saw so many of my friends start college 2 3 years, rack up 30 40 thousand dollars in student loans just to turn around and say, this isn't for me. And I go, well, how could we have prevented that from happening? If you were more informed at the beginning, if you had better tools to make that decision at the beginning, would you have maybe gone a different direction and you wouldn't find yourself 2 years in now changing your major? That's kind of the thinking that we have around the solutions we're providing.
Mhm. I think the audience would be interested to learn about some of the experiences you've had that you've built upon to reach this point, and maybe how it led you to come up with this idea and this idea of changing the way that people are educated. Could you tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
your past experiences, your experiences in education?
yeah, absolutely. I think we all get a taste of education at some point in time in our lives when we have to go to school. And so I was no different. I went to a public school and I excelled. I did quite well. It worked for me. I fell in that bell curve, is kind of what you call it. And as I developed and I grew up into a teenager, I had discovered an outlet where I was able to produce and make video at a public access station. And as I became more involved with that and started falling in love with the passion of making video, I started to care a lot less about whether I was completing my English classes, or I was more worried about making my next video than I was doing my homework, basically. And that was kind of my first foray into this realization that, yes, you need to go to school and you need to get your work done. You should graduate and all those things. But was confident that the skills I was building at the time in video were going to be what drove my career ultimately. I banked on that. So I graduated high school and my grades slipped towards the end. I didn't have the best GPA when I graduated, I'll admit it. But I had a boatload of knowledge under my belt for video production, so much so that I was able to walk into college to get a 2 year degree in video multimedia production. And after the first year, my college professor sat me down and said, "What are you doing here?" You're way, way above the students here. You need to just get your portfolio together and go start working. You're ready. And that was kind of the realization that you don't have to follow the traditional path. And of course, I got pushback from my family quite a bit. You know, you should have that degree. You should get your associates, at least your associates or whatever. And I felt a lot of pressure to do that, but I dug my heels in and I took my professor's advice. And within a year, I was working for a large gym, corporate office where I was producing their videos and making all of their multimedia, basically my dream job at the time. And so that showed me that you don't have to have a traditional journey of learning. You don't have to follow the traditional avenue to end up being exactly where you want to be in your professional career and in life. And I wasn't really so sure about that because when you live inside your own world, you don't know what other experiences are like. So when I met Eric, one of the things that really opened my eyes up is Eric was the opposite of me. He went to a 4-year college. He has a master's degree in English. He has all the schooling under his belt. So he, of anybody, would be able to stand by and say, yes, traditional education and the traditional way of learning is the way to go because I did all of this. And even he has said, this isn't the way. I did it, but there's a better way. As a matter of fact, he considers my way the better way. And so now we are building that, like I said, that platform, that digital platform that can help learners discover what their alternative path to learning what they need to learn to get to that place they want to be is.
Mm-hmm. And with this new product that you're providing, this LMS, what makes JazzJune different? What's different about the product that would make someone choose your product over another LMS?
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different value propositions that we're trying to build into our platform. Obviously, affordability is one of the big things. Above all, we want to make sure that access to our system is equitable and that if you don't have a lot of money or you don't have money, you can still get the resources you need to find the education that's right for you. That's first and foremost. There are other businesses, I'm familiar with a few, that aggregate a bunch of classes and courses together and allow you to search and sort and a filter. We're not the first Expedia for education to market, as you would maybe say, but we are really creating an entire suite of tools around that concept. So finding your education is one thing, but getting help with it, getting advice along the way, having a mentor or a tutor where you need them, connecting you with those human to human resources is a key component to your success as a learner. That's what we really focus on, is creating the tools to create success for the learner. So they would come to our JazzJune, use our system to search, sort, find, and filter for education options that might be right for them. If they're unsure about a few, they can get a hold of a live person, talk to them, kind of like an advisor a little bit, talk you through what's going on. And they also sell services. The advisor can then say, well, if you're interested in me tutoring, I can sell you my tutoring services. And then, of course, we need a way to pay for this all. At least a lot of the learners I talk to need a way to pay for this all. And so one of the last components that we're building in to our platform is the ability for learners to crowdfund. Right now, you can go on to GoFundMe and you can start up a crowdfund campaign for your learning for, let's just say, a 2-year degree. But we've found through the data that those campaigns do not do well on GoFundMe. They don't get the attention or the focus they need. And I think they're riddled with skepticism because with that platform, anyone can donate. And then that money can be used for anything. That person just gets a check at the end of the day. You're hoping that they spend it on education. Through our crowdfunding platform specifically, people who donate money to a learner can kind of rest easy because we never let the learner get that money directly. We pay the educational partner directly. So if they have a 2-year school and they're raising $10,000 in funds to go there and they meet their goal of $10,000, then we're paying the school that $10,000 directly to enroll that learner. That way, the money only went for their education.
So you're using crowdfunding campaigns to essentially directly contribute to the funding of different people's educations.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty incredible, and
yeah,
I commend you for that initiative. Does
Thank you.
JazzJune cater to a certain subject or field?
No, we are a small company still, so we don't have every subject and we don't have every field. We're building that. I don't really know where the limit is on it, though, to be honest with you. I see us being able to do everything in every field, but there is a lot of overlap. And so we are kind of figuring out what are those categories, and if we have all these different fields, how do they get separated out appropriately? It's a challenge for us, but our goal really at this point is to partner with anyone and everyone who sells an educational product. We want them in our marketplace. If you're an airline company and you sell flights, you're on Expedia. So if you are a college, if you are an online e-learning company and you sell courses, you should be on our Expedia.
Mhm. And I've researched and I've seen that many schools are looking to adopt LMSs into their curriculum. Do you have a target market or groups which you feel you can better serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So we build learning management systems primarily right now for businesses. But a business doesn't function much differently than a school, actually. A lot of schools are businesses. And so we could easily take what we have and modify it for a school. We actually haven't yet. And that's because we've discovered a lot of schools already have their own learning management system. If they don't, then they're getting one right now. They're looking at it. We're happy to talk about the solutions we have for them if they don't. But what we're trying to do is work with an educational partner with the learning management system that they're using, and we want to be able to say, okay, how can we wire up our learning management system to talk to your learning management system so everything you offer gets put into this library that our learners can access? What does that look like? And so that's the integration we're working on building with our educational partners primarily.
How have you seen the adoption of LMSs into businesses and schools alike? Would you say that this industry has developed more recently, or that companies and schools have been utilizing this technology for a long time?
Um, well, that's a difficult question to answer because so we could look at the history of instructional design or really e-learning and e-learning development. And what you would see is some of the very first protocols for publishing e-learning go all the way back to 2004. One of the more popular formats that a LMS would grade a course is through something called SCORM. And SCORM 2004 came out in 2004. And before SCORM 2004, there was SCORM 1.2, which was like 2000 to 2001. Before that point, I don't think there was really much of anything. So that really, the early 2000s kind of kicked off the idea that you can create a digital system that keeps track of learning and progress, and obviously whether or not someone passes or fails something. But it's really developed, over the last 5 years tremendously because prices have come down. That's one. The market has adjusted itself, so these platforms are more affordable to medium-sized businesses that maybe they were just a little bit out of reach before. And schools, I feel like schools have always been good about being some of the first people on some of these systems. I remember when I was in college, which was quite a while ago, over 10 years, we had our own, e-learning system. It was called D2L, Desire to Learn. It's still around today. It's actually enhanced quite a bit. I mean, so we had something, and it was mildly impressive for the day, especially. But, where I see opportunity really isn't necessarily directly in the learning management systems category alone. It's in this entire category of helping learners, whatever tool that looks like, whatever that looks like, whether it's funding, whether it's getting the help you need or finding the right fit for you. That's where I think we can expand more options. I don't see enough of that. I see a lot of systems that will tell learners what they should do to learn, but very few of them give them the resources to actually put pen to paper and make it happen.
I totally agree with you. I think that there is an opportunity, or should I say, issue with students not getting the resources they need to excel.
Yeah.
And I think that EdTech is going to be able to really enable many students to take that next step.
Yes.
Um, were you interested in EdTech beforehand, or did you become interested in the field after coming up with the idea for JazzJune?
The idea for JazzJune definitely like thrusted me into this world, the ed tech world. I guess, I was interested on some level, whether I kind of realized it or not. I was watching YouTube videos about it and reading articles, but it wasn't until we really started fleshing out the idea of JazzJune that I realized that there was a lot of opportunity here and hardly any players in the space. And I was like, okay, there's something here, and I need to dive in deep. And so now of course I have so much coming at me that I can hardly keep track of all the new developments that are going on. But yeah, no, my passion for ed tech kind of fell into place when I realized that I could be the person to help other people understand, at least start the conversation about a different learning journey that works better for them. And my story echoes that. And it was one of the reasons why when my partners got together and we were forming JazzJune and figuring out our roles, they were like, you should be the CEO because you have the story that should be the story of all of our learners. You found your education, you went after it, and you took it in a non-traditional approach to end up getting a career that you've always wanted.
What do you think are some of the hardest parts of being an ed tech startup?
I think one of the hardest parts about being a startup in general is funding. I mean, but funding in this sector is difficult, especially. There's a lot of different sectors now where funding will just come at you if it's already been established that there's a success recipe with that industry. So if I were to start another Uber service, let's just say, I'd probably get funding immediately because they already know that's rocking and rolling and doing really well. And so with ed tech, well, first of all, with education in general, education never gets the funding it needs. That's another big thing that we want to do as JazzJune is just bring awareness to the fact that education doesn't get the funding it needs. And one of the places that, if we were to invest more funding into and get exponentially more value out of, it would be education. I mean, after all, when you teach somebody something, you're giving them a lesson for life. So you've just taken whatever dollar amount you've spent on that lesson and you've expanded it over a lifetime. I mean, to me, that sounds like some incredible intrinsic value. And so I really don't understand why there isn't a larger focus on the potential for education to solve a lot of the problems that we're facing today and in the future. But as a startup specifically, I think, it's wrapping our heads around where do we start? When we started JazzJune, we thought we were going to build this website and this app and go direct to consumer. And then we realized how expensive it was to go direct to consumer. And we're like, well, we can't do that. So then we thought, okay, well, we'll partner with schools and get them in. And then once we have them in, we'll get the learners. Well, then we realized that it costs quite a bit of money to get the partner. So here we are now. And what we're selling primarily is our JazzJune for Business. We're deploying learning management systems into private businesses just to essentially pay the bills right now until we can take that and roll it into the next layer that we plan on developing, which is the LMS for our learners and opening it up to everybody and not just businesses.
For those in the audience that are looking to get into this industry or business, what would be your advice for them?
Well, there's a lot of different roles within this industry. So you're going to want to do some research to see where you think you fit. There's very technical roles in this field, from programming and coding to database management and administration, all the way to design roles, graphic design, video production. The thing about ed tech is it really combines the everything together. You need all of it. And so if you like to help people, because that's another thing about this industry that kind of comes through than other industries, is education has got good people in it, good people that want to help. And so if you are a person who wants to help, you want to, you get value from helping others, you get fulfillment from that, and you're passionate about something, whether it's coding or design, then EdTech would be a great place for you to start looking. And how you do that, could just start with a simple Google search. I would love to be able to say start at jazzjune.com, but we're not quite ready yet.
Do you have anything that you'd like to share about JazzJune or any upcoming initiatives that people can contribute to, or that, any significant news you'd like to share?
Oh, well, the biggest update that we have going on right now is that our JazzJune for Business is doing quite well. And it's allowing us to then generate revenue that we can spend to develop our platform for learners. And after a difficult meeting a couple of weeks ago, the founders, myself included, had decided that really the best way to get to learners, AKA everybody, doesn't matter. If you're a person with a brain, you're a learner. How do we get to you in a big way? And we realized that it's going to start with this. We need to get an app. And so we are in the process now of building our JazzJune app. And we think it's going to be the app that will launch us into our consumer market. And that's what we're hoping for, at least. And so we have actually a really great website, I guess you could call it, a back end, essentially. It just needs to be converted into an app. So we're not starting at square one, which is kind of exciting, but we have work to do there. And I hope that once we have that app in the App Store, we'll start to see a shift in usage on our site.
Well, Alex,
That's
I just want to thank you for being here today. It's been great to talk to you about JazzJune.
Likewise.
And what you guys are doing up in Minnesota sounds some like it's something special. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Blake. We really appreciate it. Anytime.
Thanks.